You had a highly agitated suspect, armed with a handgun, had been threatening people. His behavior was escalating. He was becoming more and more agitated. He was becoming less and less cooperative.
He was making some demands of me that I wasn't able to immediately meet. Got very frustrated with that. He then started making threats to kill his young child inside. At that point, I heard a gunshot in the background on the phone, and the young child started screaming and crying. That was an incredibly stressful situation for me on the end of the line, not knowing the welfare of the child, not knowing the mindset of the subject, whether he did in fact shoot the child, whether he shot himself, or whether he was shooting out the window at officers that were on the scene. So at that point, that kind of amped up our response levels and the tactical members in terms of their response. I was able to get a dialogue back at one point. However, shortly thereafter, another shot was fired. Threats were made to shoot anybody that came in the home and to shoot the child. So, as a negotiator, like I said, it's very difficult. Kind of feels like that responsibility rests on your shoulders a little bit to get this guy to come out peacefully and not harm anybody. Obviously, we're concerned about the hostage or the other people inside, the young child that can't care for herself. Also concerned about our tactical team. If I'm unable to successfully talk this guy out of the house, that means that my friends, my coworkers, people that I know and care about are going to have to go into a situation that puts them in danger.
That was one of the most difficult situations that I've ever had to deal with in almost 10 years on the SWAT team. And the reason for that was that I was well aware right at the beginning that this was a 3-year-old little girl. Well, I'm a father, I have a little girl, and it was impossible to separate my feelings as a father from that situation. And when the threats were made toward the child, they were very real. There was nothing arbitrary here. When shots are being fired inside, we had confirmation.
It doesn't get, unfortunately, any clearer than that we better do something, and we better do something right now, or he might actually go through with what he's threatening to do.
Based on all the information that we were getting, that at that moment, a hostage rescue, although possible, presented more complications and more risk to everyone involved than we were willing to accept at that moment. And based on that, the determination was made to engage the rifle team to use deadly force if necessary to end the situation.
So we knew that the situation was getting very intense, and then we received the call from the command post that we had a green light, which means that if we had the opportunity, that we would take the suspect out and immediately stop the threat just to save that child. At that point, I can tell you that every one of our team members on the team, their stress was very elevated, heart rate was up, it was very intense, but we trained for that as well.
And I'd like to point out that that's not an arbitrary decision. As a tactical commander, that's an incredibly difficult decision to make. To be at a command post and authorize someone else to use deadly force is extremely difficult.
I've been a police officer for over 26 years, and that was one of the toughest decisions that I've been in a position to make. It was the right decision, it was a necessary decision, and it was a decision we needed to make. But nonetheless, as John said, to get to a point where you have to authorize others to use deadly force against somebody is not something we take lightly. And you exhaust all other options before you get to that point. We felt this was the safest resolution that we could come up with. Our primary mission at the time was to save the life of that 3-year-old girl, and our secondary mission was to hopefully take the suspect in custody safely. So we made that decision, we gave that order. That order stood in place, but for a variety of reasons, our rifle team was not able to get the shot that they were looking for at that time.
When consulted by the commander and Sergeant Sheneman, we presented a tactical plan that was approved and then later executed with success.
So obviously as a team leader, Officer Fuchs has to worry about himself, his officers, the hostage, as well as the suspect. And that's not a situation he takes lightly, nor do we, when we're sending a team into what we know to be harm's way with a young hostage, a 3-year-old girl. But it's a decision that we felt we had to make. We were talking about, well, what if we just keep waiting? And we felt that wasn't a good option because we thought, well, maybe the suspect is asleep or is dazed. But if he wakes up, if he becomes more alert, then we're back to square one with an agitated suspect again. And again, we were hoping that we would have the element of surprise entering the dwelling. That in fact turned out to be the case, and we gave the order to execute that. The SWAT team used some diversionary tactics and was able to gain entry very quickly. And their first priority was to rescue the girl, which they immediately did. They got her out of the house safely without any injury, and then they were able to safely take the suspect into custody as well. So the situation, thankfully, resolved itself probably in the best scenario possible, all things considered. But this was a situation that, again, went on for a period of time but rapidly escalated, and was a situation that was very intense for all these individuals involved as well as the other team members. SWAT teams aren't used very often and sometimes come under some level of criticism as to why do we even have SWAT teams. This is exactly why. This is not a situation where your average police officer is able to effectively operate. The average police officer doesn't have the training, nor do they have the equipment to do what we've talked about today. I'm happy to report a successful operation, but more important than that, I'm very proud of the work done by our men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department SWAT team and the work they did out there that night.